Thank you. My name is Marianne Thieme and I'm a member of parliament for the Party for the Animals in the Netherlands. And our party is the very first in the world to champion the rights of non-humans in the national parliament. However, there are other problems in the world aside from animal welfare. So tonight I'm going to tell you some very hard truths about what we are doing to our planet. And I'm so pleased that you are ready to face up to these realities.
If you look at the 10 hottest years ever measured, they've all occurred in the last 14 years.
The world is heating up fast and we have ourselves to blame.
Global warming is real, and we humans are almost certainly the cause.
Global warming, that's the world's greatest current concern. Everyone finds themselves in its grip, from scientists to politicians to the Secretary General of the UN and even Leonardo DiCaprio.
We face a convergence of crises. Industrial civilization has caused irreparable damage.
By the middle of the century, there may be 150 million environmental refugees.
Not only is it the 11th hour, it's 11:59.
But it's that other film made by Nobel Prize winner Al Gore, which has truly succeeded in putting this global problem on the map. An Inconvenient Truth was a real wake-up call to the world. This was a great achievement for Al Gore. However, he forgot something rather important. The consequences of global warming are enormous. The climate researchers from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change have estimated that by the year 2100, 1 to 3 billion people will be in dire need of fresh water. Hunger will increase throughout large parts of the globe. So it should come as no surprise that global warming is currently our foremost concern. Everyone who has seen Al Gore's film knows that our Earth is in bad shape. Greenhouse gas emissions must be reduced. This is on the agenda of every world leader. The causes of global warming must be dealt with now. And so, together we must identify the greatest emitters of greenhouse gases in our society. What do you think? What are the sources of greenhouse gases?
The cars we're driving and the water waste and all the trash we don't care where we're throwing it, that's what I think.
Cars, buses.
It's industry, it's gasoline, it's energy use.
All the fumes from
Cars, too many vehicles maybe.
Fumes in the air, all the gas and people driving in the city.
Cars, factories, planes.
Much in the aviation industry hasn't helped.
I mean, one airplane can fly across country and it's like 40 tons of carbon. 40 tons, that's a lot.
I think in one word, I would say pollution.
Coal power stations, gas power stations.
People using more energy than they need to.
We are wasting a lot of...
An excessive use of gases.
And also coal burning stations, especially in China.
All the pollutants that we pump into the air day after day.
Everyone says the same thing. It's the cars, the planes, the industrial plants. It's because we leave our lights on and take long showers. Always the same familiar answers. And, well, yes, of course it's true. But no one has yet won the grand prize. Because we're forgetting one extremely important factor. 18% of global greenhouse gas emissions are caused by livestock farming. That might surprise you. Farmed animals, 18%. And guess what percentage of total global emissions are caused by transport? 13%. Just think. All the cars, tractors, trucks, ships and planes in the world added together emit fewer greenhouse gases than livestock farming.
Oh, really? Wow, I thought it was mostly cars.
Wow.
Wow. Livestock.
That's crazy. So more than the cars.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
That's insane.
No, I did not know that. No.
That's news to me. I've never heard that.
I'd never heard the livestock connection, no.
Well, I knew there was some. I had no idea it was that extensive.
How does it come from livestock exactly?
What do you call cow farts? What do you call that?
Okay.
Yeah, the methane gas coming from the cows. Yeah.
It's cow shit, right? Doesn't cow poop? It's what the emissions, right?
I thought it was just fat people in the South here in America, but no, apparently it's cattle as well.
It's quite worrying.
Okay. But I saw an article that say because the cow, what they fast, and then actually the fasting make the global warming. Yeah.
But how can it be that farm animals place a heavier burden on the environment than the entire transport sector worldwide? Well, actually, it's rather simple.
Once upon a time, a farmer was someone who owned land and some animals.
Nice and quiet around here.
If there was more land, then he bought some more pigs, a few chickens, and some cows.
Well, that's a fine kettle of fish.
You know what? All that grubbing around outside takes far too long. We're going to fatten you up and fast. It's not a fairy tale storybook. You're there to be eaten.
Not sure that's such a compliment, really.
We'll squeeze you all together nice and efficiently, and you'll all get sick right away.
You're telling me.
Listen, Piggy, I'm not interested in your personal vision right now. In the Netherlands alone, you lot produce 70 billion kilos of dung. Do you know how bad that is for the environment and the climate?
Sorry for living.
Did you know that cows of all farm animals are the largest producers of greenhouse gases, mostly through all that belching and farting? Do you know what the problem is? You're eating us out of house and home.
Who was just so pleased about fattening us up?
But all that food has to come from somewhere, doesn't it? So we destroy the rainforests and plant soya crops instead. But the rainforests are really important for the absorption of carbon dioxide. And then we spray the stuff with pesticides and we ship the soya off to Europe where it ends up in your feeding troughs. So well organized. What are you people up to?
Well, that's not our fault. Who actually wants to eat meat anyway?
The consumer, okay? Is there something wrong with that?
Well, that's a good question. Who actually eats so much meat? Eating meat is a luxury that we've got all rather too used to. Don't dare touch our steaks. Keep your hands off our barbecues. But once it becomes clear that all this meat is making a major contribution to the destruction of our Earth, shouldn't we think again? And yes, I hear some of you thinking, here we go again, yet another vegetarian fanatic. But I'm certainly not the only one who's worried about this issue.
I'm farm manager. We farm 1,000 hectares of land in mid-Wales. We have around 800 head of cattle, including 550 dairy cows. We have 3,000 head of sheep, and we grow some arable crops. We can't deny as farmers, as agriculturists, that methane produced by cows contributes to global warming.
I'm David Davis. I work at the Institute of Biological, Environmental and Rural Sciences at Aberystwyth University. Cows have a very complex digestive tract, more complex than humans. Within their stomach, they are able to digest plant fibre, and humans cannot. To do that, they need a very complex mix of bacteria and fungi and protozoa within their digestive system. Now, these microorganisms do not have access to oxygen, and the food that we eat as people gets converted into carbon dioxide and water. Because ruminants in the rumen don't have access to oxygen, they need to produce a different range of end products. And one of the key ones from the rumen is methane. When you compare with carbon dioxide, methane is 21 times more potent.
The cow eats the feed in front of it, and it goes into its stomach, and as a result of that, the cow burps a lot. And this gas, which is produced when the animal burps, is one of the gases linked to warming and the greenhouse effect.
Every cow and every ruminant regurgitates its food into the mouth to chew, and this enables the microorganisms in the stomach to actually get better access to that feed. And whilst they're regurgitating it, they're actually releasing methane. So every time the cud, as it's called, comes into the mouth, a small amount of gas will also be released, and this will contain a large proportion of methane.
No, we don't notice anything about it because it's just a natural process which occurs in all ruminants.
The dairy cow that's producing 8,000 to 10,000 litres of milk every year will produce around 500 to 700 litres of methane every day. So your average cow will produce around 700 litres of methane per day. This is equivalent to the amount of greenhouse gas CO2 emissions produced by a big 4x4 vehicle travelling around 35 miles per day.
The ruminant population within the world is probably growing, and it has to grow in line with the growth in population in order to feed that population. I think it should concern everybody.
In 2006, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN, the FAO, published an important report which first brought the link between livestock farming and climate change to light. I'm now going to speak to Dr. Henning Steinfeld, the chief author of this report. Dr. Steinfeld, you have calculated that livestock farming is responsible for 18% of greenhouse gas emissions. That's quite a lot.
In fact, 18% is quite a lot. It has to do with the fact that in this assessment we took into account all the changes in land use that are related to livestock, the production of animals in terms of methane, the manure management in terms of also methane and nitrous oxides, and the various steps of the feed production, livestock production, processing, transport, and so on that have to do with livestock and feed commodities. And this is how you get to 18%.
Okay. How did you respond yourself when you were confronted with these figures?
I knew it was high. I knew also the impact on water and biodiversity was going to be very significant. I didn't expect it to be quite as high, but this is the figure we came up with.
And what do you think? What was the most shocking, amazing conclusion from your report?
Well, I think one of the issues is that this huge environmental impact that livestock have is not well understood by the public. It is not even well understood by the farmers themselves. So there is actually a strong case for regulating the livestock sector much more than is currently the case.
Thank you. Everyone is talking about global warming and trying to find out why it is happening. But how can it be that livestock farming is hardly ever mentioned as one of its causes? Certainly when more and more scientists have made the link between livestock farming and climate change.
It's not generally known, but between 40 and 50% of all cereals are not eaten by humans, but by livestock. And for soy, that's about 75%.
If you consider that it takes about 7 kilograms of grain, that's corn and soybeans, to just make 1 kilogram of beef, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of hectares of soy being planted in former rainforest to provide meat.
That's not a very efficient way of producing protein food.
The soy is being imported from places like Brazil. Brazil has the biggest soy export market in the world, and their soy production has grown since the 1960s, something like 57 times. So they're just producing more soy than ever before. And most of that soy is being produced in very environmentally sensitive areas, including the Amazon rainforest and the Cerrado, which is a woodland savanna.
What can I say? It's a disaster. The main drawback is losing biodiversity, but indirectly it's also influencing climate change. It's speeding up the climate change that's already occurring.
Carbon sinks are places in the world like the rainforest or the Cerrado or some agricultural lands that soak up and sequester carbon. And when those are lost, we're losing a very important tool in the fight against global warming.
Today, there's nothing more important than trying to contain the problem of global warming. And to do that, we cannot afford not to pay attention to agriculture. If we want to just achieve a fairly conservative objective in this sector, which is to stop this sector adding more by the middle of the century, then we have to take quite radical steps, because the natural dynamic is that as populations get richer, they almost universally consume more animal products. In the global context at the moment, this argument really, in a way, focuses on China, because China is the biggest increaser in meat consumption. It's doubling every 10 years. The population of pigs and chickens in China is doubling every 10 years. These are monogastric animals. They don't create a greenhouse gas problem in terms of methane release, but they do create environmental problems because they have to be fed. And the feedstuffs have to come from global sources, and they come from soybean production in Brazil, which comes from deforestation and so on. If the rich countries keep on consuming at their high level, and countries like China come up to our high level, then the situation will be much worse, and that will make it very much more difficult to achieve global warming targets overall.
So it's rather strange that most governments only focus on quick fixes, like taxes on gas guzzlers. Certainly when you realize that research shows that in a year, a cow in the Netherlands will produce just as many greenhouse gas emissions as a car that drives 70,000 kilometers. 70,000 kilometers. This means driving around the globe more than 1.5 times. In a medium-sized car, I should add. The image we get to see of global warming is always so one-sided. We only get to see factory chimneys and traffic jams. Where are the public information campaigns about the relationship between carbon emissions and eating meat? I certainly haven't seen them yet in the Netherlands, despite the fact that we slaughter 500 million animals here each year. Animals, however, discover exactly what factory farming is very early on in their lives. Piglets, for example, are castrated without anesthetic. Their tails are docked, they are forced to live in dark concrete stalls and usually only see daylight when they are taken to slaughter. It's not much different for other factory farmed animals. Take laying hens, for example. They are crammed into battery cages and their beaks are trimmed to stop them from pecking one another. Since 2006, I have represented the Party for the Animals in the Dutch Parliament, and I strive to put an end to these kind of practices. But my work doesn't just stop at animal welfare. It's only recently that the Dutch Environmental Agency has sounded the alarm at the speed at which we are exhausting the earth and its resources. The Netherlands uses 4 times its own surface area to produce what we consume. Think of it like a buffet. We are heaping up our plates with enough food to feed 4 people, which means that there will be not enough left for those at the back of the queue. 1 billion people on our planet suffer from obesity, while elsewhere 1 billion people go to bed hungry every night. Something is seriously askew, and we should really talk about it. Right now, half of the total global wheat harvest is used as livestock feed to support our meat and dairy consumption. Half of the entire harvest, while at the same time people in poor countries are starving. And there doesn't seem to be an end to this. We keep on consuming more and more and more, and in the future we'll have to exploit other people's natural resources even more than we do now. And this will be at the expense of those people, clean water, clean air, and also our environment. So let me sum this up for you. Scientists say that it simply takes far more land and energy to produce animal protein than plant-based ones. To produce animal products, you need up to 10 times as much land as needed to produce vegetable products. And this is due to the fact that all this land is needed to produce feed for these billions of farm animals. Films like An Inconvenient Truth have made a very important contribution to the debate on global warming. Yet the only cow that I saw on screen symbolized little Elle's picture-perfect youth in Tennessee. In the whole Inconvenient Truth, not a single word was said about livestock farming or the impact of this polluting industry. Dr. Steinfeld, how is it possible that livestock doesn't play a role in the discussion about global warming?
Well, I think that the fact is that in the climate change discussion, much of the focus is on carbon dioxide. And the carbon dioxide emissions, if you look at the livestock sector, only make up about 1/3 of the total greenhouse gas emissions. Nitrous oxides and methane don't come very strongly into the debate, but they are much more potent in terms of greenhouse gases than carbon dioxide, and they need to be factored in.
But Al Gore didn't say one single word about the livestock industry in his documentary. What do you think? Didn't you miss the aspect as well?
It is certainly missing. The entire aspect of food is missing. And I think everyone needs to know that food and agriculture contributes to climate change and has environmental impact. And one needs to make choices if one wants to be environmentally friendly that are in line with the environmental impact of producing various types of food.
Well, I think he should have said something about it. Have you ever tried to convince him?
Well, I'm not someone who knows Al Gore personally. I think that at my level, publishing results and talking at conferences and talking to the media, such as in this case, is all I can do.
Well, thank you. He doesn't know it either. So I went to the United States to find an answer to this question. Unfortunately, Al Gore was busy, but I did manage to speak to some other people who had quite a bit to say on the subject.
You look great.
Hello. Hi. Some information? Thank you. Have a nice day.
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Nice to meet you finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do such great work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Having a good time.
Yeah. What are you doing here?
Well, we're out here trying to show people that if they're eating meat, they're engaging in the #1 most environmentally destructive behavior they could engage in. And showing people that rather than cars and trucks and SUVs, even rather than planes, meat is the #1 cause of global warming.
Do people believe that when you tell them?
People are shocked to find out. We hear so much about cars and trains and planes and energy, and people don't realize that it's actually the meat on their plate that's causing global warming rather than the car that they're driving even. Get you some information here?
Thank you.
Thank you. How's it going? There you go, check that out when you get a chance. Thank you. Check that out, thank you. We use this catchy phrase, climate change. It's really just a way to grab attention and get people to look in our direction long enough for us to give them a leaflet and explain the issue a little bit further. And get them to go home wondering, how is it that meat causes global warming, rather than wondering what's on television tonight, or what am I gonna have for dinner tonight? Hey there. One of these. Thank you. Saying that power plants are the #1 cause of global warming is like saying that humans are the #1 cause of global warming. Power plants don't emit energy, don't create energy for the purpose of just creating energy for the sake of it. They create it for industries. And one of the industries that uses the most energy is factory farming. All right. In the US, the meat industry uses about 1/3 of all the fossil fuels that we generate.
Headquarters of People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, in short, PETA. They have almost 2 million members and are active worldwide.
I love this one as well.
Oh, yeah.
This is very famous one. We've got this.
I suspect that for Al Gore and for a lot of other people, it's just too inconvenient of a truth. Gore was a politician and is beholden to a lot of industry people in many different industries, probably in the meat industry too. And while he certainly has done admirable work, it's disheartening, to say the least, that he has continued to ignore the fact that the meat he's eating every night for dinner is the #1 cause of global warming.
I'm Alicia Silverstone, and I'm a vegetarian. There's nothing in the world that's changed me as much as this. I feel so much better and have so much more energy. It's so amazing.
There's a prominent environmental group in the US called Environmental Defense, and they recently wrote on their website that if every American replaced chicken with vegetarian foods in just 1 meal per week,